Dr. Robert Grupe is the author of The Change, a textbook for guided corporate transformation, and Creating the Future, containing his most requested radio commentaries. Featured in Who's Who in America, he has given keynote presentations at Oklahoma City University, the University of Central Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State University, among others. For 6 years, he hosted the television program Creating the Future on Cox Cable. A father with 4 children, all served by the Oklahoma City educational system, Dr. Grupe has a personal and abiding interest in the work of the Oklahoma City Educational Television Consortium.
Student success is the gold standard for education, and we're featuring 3 schools' successful programs and talking with students and instructors who are sharing their excitement about the learning experience. With me is Whitney Kemp, emergency medical services instructor at OSU-OKC, and a very important student who has a wonderful message to share with us, Alicia Krieger, who's just completed her EMT class over the summer. And Whitney, let's discuss some of the various training programs and certifications that are available.
Well, we offer 2 different tracks. We have our EMT program, which is a certificate program. You can finish that in 16 weeks. And then you're eligible to, if you pass the course, you're eligible to take your national registry exam and get your license. And then we have the paramedic program. So you have to do EMT first, but then you're eligible to be in the paramedic program. It is roughly a 4-semester program. It is a degreed program, so you walk out with an associate in applied science and paramedicine. So that's another option as well.
And how long have you been involved in teaching this?
I have been teaching at OSU-OKC for 3 years now.
What interested you in being there?
Well, I love OSU for one, but number 2, I am a paramedic and I've worked in the field for almost 13 years now, and so it's my way of giving back. I know what I expect in the field, and so I want to leave that with my students.
Well, I'm glad I asked you that question, because what you're telling me is that having that hands-on training is what you incorporate into your training of these students.
Yes, we do. That's one of the best parts about our training at OSU-OKC, is that our faculty and adjuncts, they all still work in the field, so they bring a very unique experience to the classroom, as well as the hands-on training we provide for our students.
So actually, what I'm thinking here is really you have a program that stands out from other programs.
Our program does stand out from others, A, because all of our instructors still work in the field, and then B, the unique experiences that we provide for our students.
Let's talk a little bit about job placement, which is so important.
Yes, that's one of the great things about EMS. There's a high demand for more EMS professionals, and our students, I mean, like I said, we've set the bar high for them. Our expectation is high, and so we put out good quality students, and as soon as they leave the program, almost all of our students always get jobs. Our business and industry partners are saying, we need more. One of the other unique things about our program is when they are finishing their last semester of paramedic school, we put them through a unique mock interview process where it's a panel situation with our real business and industry partners. And a lot of our students have gotten jobs that way because they are sitting down in front of fire chiefs, in front of emergency medical directors, and they see the quality of our students. But we also give them that real life experience at having a real interview.
Well, you've developed a number of networking processes.
We have. That's one of the great things about our program.
Well, Alicia, you have lived through this training.
Yes.
I mean that in a positive way. Tell us a little about your experience and what the OSU training has meant to you.
Okay, so it all started because for the past 4 years, I've worked as a personal care provider. I got my bachelor's from UCO in biomedical sciences, so I want to go to med school. I was looking for ways to enhance my knowledge, and I actually ran into an old high school classmate that told me about the program, and so that's kind of where I got persuaded into going. And as far as the actual program, I mean, the staff, they're wonderful. They're very resourceful and compassionate. Like she said, they're willing to go the extra mile to help students and You know, if there's something you don't understand, they'll figure out a way to help you understand it, whether they have to pull you to the side and show you or whatever. So,
Well, it sounds like you felt like there was a very great depth
Oh, yeah.
of training provided to you.
Yeah.
And you kind of talked about the compassionate and let's talk about that for a minute. Isn't that a part of the whole mix? It being empathetic and I think you had mentioned something about that. Probably the dedication of the instructors who were working with you.
Right, yes, because it does. If you have that positive influence, it'll fall back on the students. And so it'll motivate us to want to do better and get more engaged and stuff like that. So it definitely plays a big role. Just working in the healthcare field alone, because it's not easy. Everybody can't do it. Takes a big heart. And
yeah, that's what I was getting at right there, is having that emotional connection to feel that that's where you need to be. And that's what you need to be doing. Well, getting back just for a minute, Whitney, how can being an EMT or paramedic help you to bridge to other healthcare professions?
Well, one of the great things about being an EMT or a paramedic is it gives you a strong foundation to bridge over to some of those other things. And so what we see is we see students, they'll bridge over to nursing. We've had students bridge over and go to medical school, PA school, even chiropractic school. And so it just really gives you a good, firm foundation. It also gives you that face-to-face, real-life patient experience and interaction as well, because that's not something you just wake up knowing how to have a good bedside manner. But by going through this program, it helps you to learn those skills as well.
Yeah, and I think that even refers back to what my thoughts were a moment ago, that the soft skills.
Yes.
Because you've got certain hard skills
Right.
that you learn, but how important is it to have the soft skills integrated into that?
Those are just as important as the hard skills. I mean, we could teach anybody to do the hard skills, but it's those soft skills and those professionalism skills that really take some of the extra effort to get people where we need them to be. And so that's integrated into our program from EMT all the way through paramedic. We grade on that.
Well, and how do you integrate that in? You have such an excellent program. How do you bring those two together?
We do lots of peer interactions and peer review, so our students evaluate each other. As instructors, we evaluate them. When they go to clinicals or when they're out at their different sites, they're evaluated by different preceptors. And so they're evaluated on a variety of different things: their empathy, their compassion, their self-respect, their professionalism, how they work with others. So it's not just the big things. We look at all of those other things too.
So you're looking at the qualitative as well as the quantitative.
Yes, we are.
In all of the elements. I'll tell you what, Alicia, it sounds like you have picked an area that you really enjoy.
yes.
And what do you see in the future? What's going to happen?
Well, like I mentioned, in the future, I plan to go to med school, and I want to major, not major, I want to go into pediatrics. So I feel like this is going to be good hands-on training for me, and it'll help me out. Like I said, it'll enhance my knowledge of what I already know, what I've studied from my undergrad and stuff like that. So.
And Whitney, what are your thoughts in EMT certificate versus paramedic degree? Talking about those two.
Okay. Well, the certificate program for the EMT, it takes one semester to complete that. And so it's like the appetizer. It's an introduction. And so you get a little bit of base knowledge, and then everything in paramedic is going to build off of what you've learned in EMT. And so looking forward, having the higher level degrees are important. And so when you go through paramedic school, it's important to finish the schooling, but also get the degree with it, because that's something that employers look at, is do you have a degree? And we know that's what employers look at.
So, consequently, and you give very succinct answers, which is good, because that lets me build on what you're saying. And so let's talk about what is it that the paramedic learn, what are some of the areas that they continue and learn more based on the EMT?
So the EMT class is kind of your foundation. It's your initial learning process. So you get introduced to patient assessments, you get introduced to that basic level of care, you get introduced to how to interact with your coworkers, how to interact with your patients, and you kind of stop right there. As you move into the paramedic level, we are now taking your thinking from this base level thinking and we're building on that, and we're teaching you how to use your critical thinking skills, how to do higher level skills, more advanced practice things, and then everything that we learned in EMT, we build on it. So you're now doing advanced assessments, and like I said, advanced skills and enhancing your critical thinking skills. That's one of the big differences in EMT and paramedic, is the critical thinking skills that go along with it.
What about time frame for, say, the EMT portion? Is it a year's
So the
time frame?
EMT class is a one-semester class. So you can, if you're in a traditional semester, fall or spring, it's 16 weeks. If you do it in the summer, it's 10 weeks. And then the paramedic program is 4 semesters long.
Which would be?
It comes out to be 16 to 18 months because we utilize that summer semester.
And is that also a certificate?
The paramedic program is a degreed program, so you would walk out with an associate in applied science in paramedicine.
Okay. And I guess when people come in, are they always picking and choosing, or are they doing one and then building on it and going on to the paramedic?
Well, most of our students come in and they start at the EMT level and then go from there. We do have some students that come in that already have their EMT license, so they can go right into the paramedic program, but you have to have your EMT first.
Well, Alicia, let's talk about the future. Just look in your crystal ball here for a minute. And what do you want to accomplish with your life through this training?
To get more hands-on experience and just gain as much knowledge as possible. Whatever I can take with me into med school would be perfect, kind of, be ahead of everyone else, hopefully.
Okay, you just said something. You just gave me an opening here, and I'm absolutely going to take it. Let's do a little dreaming here. Where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years after going to medical school?
I would say applying for a job, because, of course, med school takes about that time, surprisingly. So I would say hopefully I'm already in, pediatric. I would say, I don't know if I want to move out of Oklahoma or not, but we'll just keep it here. So yeah.
Oh, we want to keep you here if we possibly can. But what aspect of medical school is a pretty broad range? What are you wanting to specialize in? Or
I want to go into general pediatrics. Yeah.
And why is that?
Because I love working with kids. That was my very first job. I worked at a daycare, and then I also have a lot of nieces and nephews. So I don't know. I just have like a natural vibe with kids. So
if someone were to come to you maybe after they see this program and say, tell me why should I go to this OSU training for the EMT? What would you tell them? What would you encourage them about?
I would tell them that, for one, they're going to get, good training and stuff, and they would be motivated, like I said, from the staff. They're willing to go the extra mile with you. As long as you put forth the effort, they'll help you as well. It helps you build confidence skills. Like, I know I'm not a good talker at all, but like she said, we had to do peer-to-peer reviews, things like that. It builds your confidence and just certain traits like that.
Something that we're really emphasizing, of course, is student success, as we're seeing. And what are some other stories? Give us another story.
We have had some phenomenal students over the years. I have witnessed students that started out in our EMT class and came to me and told me that they were homeless and living out of their car, and then successfully complete EMT, and now they're working on an ambulance and they're thriving. And so I love to hear things like that. We've had other students, kind of a similar situation. It was he had a family. It's him, his wife, and his little baby daughter, and initially they were living in a van, and he found a job, completed paramedic school, and he is now working for an ambulance service here locally, and they're just thriving, and he has goals to go on to medical school. We have so many stories of just our students that have just overcome such adversity, and they've completed and they've finished and they've gotten jobs. That's one of the things we're so proud of, is that when our students finish this program, they get jobs. There's jobs that are waiting for them.
Now, what about the educational requirements to go into the EMT training? What do you require?
So for the EMT class, you need to pass a background check, pass a drug screen, be within good standing with the school, and there's some vaccine information that we've got to collect from you, but that's pretty much it for that.
A GED or high school?
High school diploma, GED, yes. And then same thing on the paramedic side, be in good standing with the school, have that high school diploma or GED, pass the background check, pass the drug screen, and do all of your entry-level screening, and we're good to go.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, we've covered a lot. And believe it or not, I wish we had another 15 minutes, but our time is up. Whitney Kemp, emergency medical services instructor, and Alicia Krieger, fantastic student. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
It's exciting to see student success. And student success can take different evolutions, and sometimes it can mean the individual owns their own business. James Harbor's with me, James Harbor Video Production. And James, your experience with Francis Tuttle Technology Center maybe was a little bit of that springboard.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about it.
Sure. So I attended Francis Tuttle my junior and senior year of high school. The programs have changed a little bit since then, still quality instruction, but back then the program I attended was called Interactive Media. And little did I know it was probably the perfect fit. I was just a high school student, so my parents thought it would be a good idea to get involved in something computer media related. But the program was called Interactive Media, and it was kind of an overview of a couple of different areas. There was a video production component to it. There was also a web design component to it. And it ended up being perfect because after I finished my training at Francis Tuttle, I attended college for a couple of years at Oklahoma City Community College, and then I ended up starting a web design studio. So, but Francis Tuttle was not only kind of the springboard for that, but I actually started my career here as well. I worked in the marketing department here for 3 years, managing the website and then doing assistant work for John Bodie, who's a video producer here at the time.
Excellent. And since then, a lot has happened in your life.
A lot has happened. Just to kind of give you a timeline, so like I said, I worked in marketing here for 3 years, and then I went out and started a company called Studio FJ. That was a web design studio, and it was funny because I owned that studio for 10 years. We did a decade there, and every employee that I had over the duration of owning that company was actually a former Francis Tuttle student. Every single one. So
that's a shameless plug. But
yeah, it is a shameless plug. But you could go down the the staff bios over the years, and most of the employees were with me long term. But every single person I hired was actually a Francis Tuttle student. I served on the web design advisory board during that time, and so that was kind of how I got connected with the students that ended up becoming my employees. So. Like I said, I ran that company for 10 years, and then about 6 years into owning Studio FJ, my business partner, she became my business partner. She was a former employee who was also a Francis Tuttle student. So the entire duration of Studio FJ, all the web design, all Francis Tuttle, myself, and every one of the employees as well. And so it's top-notch studio. We didn't brand the website or talk about the Francis Tuttle side of things as much on the website, but we did a ton of public speaking and things like that, and we always made sure to promote Francis Tuttle along the way.
Well, you were right in the middle of the web design. I hate to call it a craze, because really
it was a craze, yeah. That's a fair term.
If you wish.
Yeah.
But it certainly caught fire, and it's something that you all became very, very adept at doing.
Yes.
And tell us about some of your successes in web design.
Yeah, so I got lucky. As much as I, was well trained and worked hard, there's a little bit of luck component, on the success side of things. And we started the company in 2007, and at the time, like you said, the craze was it was in full swing. Let's just say that. And so back then, it was pretty much, somebody that codes or builds a website, let's just throw money at them. That was really kind of how it was. There was not a lot of competitors in the OKC metro area market. Most of the work that we did focused on local or regional companies. We didn't necessarily touch a lot of the big national brands. That stuff was a little bit too large for us, but we mostly focused on local and regional companies. And back then, there was a massive shortage of folks who needed a website or needed a developer versus those who could actually perform the work. There was a big shortage, and so we started at a great time. And it took us a couple of years, like it does with any business, to get off the ground. But after about 2 years, I would say we were pretty well established in the OKC market. I had 2 full-time employees at that time, and we really just took off from there. Since then, if you want to look at the market nowadays, a decade later, there's still plenty of jobs out there for developers, web design folks. The market is not oversaturated, so it's still a very viable career. But back when we were starting, like I said, there was just a few folks in the Oklahoma City market, and it was, you couldn't produce work fast enough, basically.
And you were fortunate enough to have gone through Francis Tuttle Technology Center and getting that kind of training at that time.
Yep.
Sometimes timing is everything.
Absolutely, it is.
But at the same time, that technology is still important.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
It is.
And I'm sure it's still expanding in what its capabilities are.
It is. And the component of Francis Tuttle, the training was very important, obviously, having that technical skill set. But one of the things that I think was really important that folks don't always talk about is just developing and garnering the interest in the technology. So, getting to start into web design and coding in high school is not, maybe these days it's a little more common, but 10, 12 years ago it wasn't. And that was one of the best things for me, was that I got to, I got the technical training, but I also just got to start into web design, start coding, and I developed a passion for it. And that was really why I ended up starting my company, was because I loved writing code, I liked doing design, and I was fortunate enough to find that passion for something that was a viable career in high school, as opposed to getting into college and kind of dabbling around, maybe changing jobs. I figured that out pretty much junior year of high school. And, it was always the plan to start a web design studio. It took me a few years to get there, but I knew right out of high school that was what I wanted to do.
But you fell in love with shooting photography and video.
I did fall in love with shooting photography and video.
So let's talk about that, because
Sure.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah, it is. That's been my 2017 career. So I mentioned that there was a little bit of a video production component to the interactive media program. And so I would say about 5 years into my career at Studio FJ, we were outsourcing photography and video. Obviously, with the web, photography and video is an essential component of that. So we would have clients who would have a product or service that was maybe kind of technical, and the content writing wasn't enough to explain the product. So it was a good fit for either a photo shoot or sometimes a video kind of demoing the product or service. So we outsourced that for a little while. And my business partner at the time and we thought, maybe we could do some of this stuff, in-house. I had dabbled in video a little bit over the years, you remember the old shoulder mount, VHS camcorders and things at home, and I'd always enjoyed it, but we decided to start doing some of it in-house. So I purchased a camera, and we started doing a little bit of video production, a little bit of photography. Little did I know that would become a full-fledged service offering at the studio. And then my business partner and I made the decision late last year to step back from Studio FJ, and now I'm out doing full-time freelance photography and video.
And like Dr. Seuss would say, you've been places.
I have been I've been all of the places.
And nationwide clients.
Yeah, we did a lot of stuff, you know, like I said, that was kind of regional for ad agencies and things, and it just kind of spread out from there. And these days, everything's so connected with, you know, the internet, social media, that folks see your work all over the place. And so I just got back from Chicago, for example. I was going to Chicago not for work. I was going for a vacation, but I have a couple of clients in Chicago that I reached out to and said, hey, are you guys in need of any work right now? And so I ended up doing a couple of shoots while I was in Chicago when I was there. So I don't travel for work quite as much as I would like, but I did a shoot this year in Houston. I go out of town in Oklahoma all the time. I'm in Tulsa constantly for shoots, things like that. But there's a little bit of a travel component to it as well, which is nice. So.
If someone were to ask you about the training at Francis Tuttle Technology, what things would you say to them to encourage them if this is their love, if it's video or photography or interactive media, that they should get into that program?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing that I would say to someone considering Francis Tuttle is that the hands-on work is really important. A lot of times, you know, training programs and things like that, if they focus too much on maybe like the theory side of things, you don't actually get to do the work, you know. And while the theory has its place, obviously, in an educational program, the hands-on stuff where you're actually writing code, shooting with cameras, in an editing bay, that experience is invaluable. It's invaluable, one, from the technical side, actually learning and learning the ropes. A lot of folks would have to take an internship or something like that to actually get to use the equipment, to get to write code, things like that, and you get to do that at Francis Tuttle in the programs. And then the second thing, which I touched on earlier, was just to develop that passion. You know, getting the opportunity at any age, whether you're coming in as an adult student or whether you're coming in as a high school student, getting to come in and actually do the work and develop that passion, I think, is just as important as the training itself, because that's what's going to kind of fuel the fire for the rest of your career.
Interesting. So what you're saying, I hear you saying, is that the instructors there encouraged your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I did a lot of collaboration projects with students outside the classroom. You know, we shot videos together, built websites. There's a couple of competitions that they run, so we actually got to do work to present before judges. So we got, which is good. You get critiqued, which is awesome. You know, you get that feedback from industry professionals. And I also mentioned earlier, I served on the Web Design Advisory Board here. That was huge as well, because the students get to, come to these panels and talk to industry professionals, ask real-world questions about pricing, about how to client management, about what the current trends are. So there's so much more to it than just the technical training.
But you're also talking about the networking that Francis Tuttle does, I guess, with other businesses and entities that need that services to understand what is needed.
Yep, absolutely. And that can offer students job placement assistance because they get to network with industry professionals. My end was the flip side of that. As a business owner, it's important that when you're looking for employees, you want someone who's got the right training and who's a good fit. And so having come from a background in Francis Tuttle, there's an automatic built-in trust when I get it. Someone slides an application across the desk to me and I'm reviewing it and I see that they're a graduate of Francis Tuttle Technology Center. There's a trust built in there because I know that the quality of the education is good.
And from what you're telling me, that trust was well placed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How outstanding. Let's take a crystal ball for a minute and look at the next 5 or 10 years. What's going to be happening for you in your profession?
So I'm kind of, I'm starting over in a new industry after a decade. So the primary thing is just rebranding myself as a video guy. I've been the resident web expert, in the OKC market for 10 years. So a big portion of that is just getting out there, letting folks know that I'm transitioning into the video production career. I would say my personal goals outside of the professional side of things is really to refine the look and the aesthetic of my videos. So if somebody was to go to my website and watch my demo reel or watch any of my production videos, I try to focus on a very highly cinematic element to the videos that I do. So my personal goals over the next 5 to 10 years are really just to refine that aesthetic and to produce the best looking videos that I possibly can.
But I have a sneaky suspicion that your training at Francis Tuttle helped you tremendously in being able to conceptualize and do some of those things.
Absolutely, because part of the training when we did the video production component, part of the training was script writing, storyboarding, things like that. So you're sketching out the scenes that you want to shoot, what you want to see, who's going to walk into the scene, walk out of the scene, things like that. So absolutely.
I think you're going to have some great success in the future.
Thank you.
James Harbor's with me, James Harbor Video Production. And James, thank you so much for being here. And
thank you, Robert.
You gave us a shameless promotion, which was well-deserved for Francis Tuttle Technology.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Metrotech has helped many young adults obtain their goals of working in the health field with hands-on technology training that's used on the job. And I have with me Tori Wollahan, teacher of Health Careers Certification, high school students, and Katie Croy, Health Careers and Practical Nursing students. And we've got a lot to cover because this whole field of healthcare, as we were saying a minute ago, is there a large demand for CNAs and LPNs? It's an enormous need. Let's talk about the programs.
Okay, so our program is structured. We have all schools in Oklahoma City Public Schools. We have Crooked Oak, Aztec Charter School, Santa Fe South. We have many different schools that are in our district. And the students choose to come to us for half their class time. And so they come from their home schools, and during the first year of our program, we actually teach them health career exploration. So there's a lot of tours, a lot of guest speakers. We teach them some hands-on skills, like introductory skills as far as taking vital signs. They become certified in CPR through American Heart Association. And then the following year, the second year, they can come back and they can focus more on some of our nursing programs. And so we have a couple different career paths that they can choose. The first one would be AUA and nurse aid, and then they can also do the new PN Select program that we just started this year, and they can actually start taking curriculum as a high school student to go into the PN program, the LPN program, and they would finish that program one semester after graduating from high school.
So what you have here are a couple of paths that the students can take, but what I thought was interesting, you mentioned an exploratory time. Why is that important?
You know, I think that a lot of kids, I know when I was, 16, 17 years old, I just wanted to be a nurse, but I didn't know what all it entailed. And I did actually become a registered nurse, and it was a really eye-opening experience for me because there's a lot of challenges in just learning to work with the patients and touch the patients. And so I think getting exposed to that when you're 16 and 17 years old makes a huge difference. And I always tell my students, when you come in, and a lot of them want to be nurses, and some of them when they leave, they change their mind. But I think it's important to look at all the different health occupations that are out there because there are so many different careers that they don't even know exist. And so what we try to do during that first year is really expose them to the many different careers that are out there so they can make the most informed decision before they go on to college and waste time or money in a career that they're not meant for.
So as a high school student, they can get into this process.
Yeah, and it's really fantastic. We try to get lots of guest speakers to come into our classrooms, speech therapists and occupational therapists and physical therapists, and then we take them out into some of the big facilities just to get them exposure and to get them a feel for what that particular occupation is like. And so then if they're interested, then they can come back that second year and they can choose nurse aid, or they can choose really what we do is we do nurse aid first and then AUA, which is Advanced Unlicensed Assistant, or they can choose the PN Select program.
But you start the networking process early,
right? So
that the folks they might end up working with get to know them and they can learn in that whole process.
Absolutely. a lot of our students, even when they go out, especially in the AUA program, a lot of our students that are working in the hospitals, you know, they'll already have jobs before they finish the program because they've done so well and the staff has gotten to know them. So it's a really great thing for everybody.
Katie, you have gone through this, and tell us a little about your experience.
Well, I was a student at Southeast High School, and I'd heard about Metro Tech's program for the nurse aide and health careers pathway. It sparked my interest with that because my dad had been ill majority of my life, and I've always wanted to do something with nursing. And so that's when I began at Metro Tech. Ms. Wallahan was my teacher with the nurse aide, and I did really well and exceeded really well with that program. So, yeah.
Well, let's expand on that a little bit. What about the technologically advanced equipment and environment that you had to work with? Tell me a little about how that was helpful to you.
Yes, it was great being able to deal with the mannequins and then also to begin to do clinicals. Getting more experience with all of the technology and going out and doing clinicals and so forth has prepared me to where I am now because I'm taking the practical nursing program back here at Metro Tech.
So you're in the process now, just going up to that higher level.
Yes.
So are you employed now or just as a student?
I'm working part-time right now. I'm working in the medical field. I did nursing assisting for some time after I had graduated. I had obtained my nursing assistance by the time I was age of 16. And then after that, I proceeded on my next year at Metro Tech, did physical therapy aid, and then processed from there. And here I am back for the practical nursing and still continue to do that.
So what do you see in your future? What are your goals?
Well, I see myself as becoming a registered nurse, advancing my career pathway to hopefully becoming a nurse practitioner someday. But Metro Tech has helped me succeed with going in the correct pathway with that.
Step at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about some of the more technologically advanced mannequins, for example. For our audience, what does that mean?
So in our building, we actually have two separate labs. We have what we call a skills lab and then a simulation lab. And when Katie was in our program, we didn't have the simulation lab, but the simulation lab is equipped with, I think, 5 beds, and each bed holds a simulator mannequin. And those mannequins can, we can measure their blood pressure, their pulse, we can listen to their breathing, we can make them talk, they can make noises, and then we have a couple of different simulators that are more advanced, and so we can actually talk through the mannequins, they can have a voice, they can actually be a patient. And so the PN students spend a lot of time in there doing actual scenarios on the simulators. And then for high school students, we're kind of limited. We do some simulations. We definitely do some CPR simulations. We do vital signs. But we spend most of our time in the skills lab. And the skills lab is, in both labs are set up just like a hospital setting with hospital beds. And in the skills lab, we just don't have the simulator mannequins. We have the beds where we actually practice the nurse aid skills. So we have a lot of technology with those two labs. And one of the things that we do each year, we've done this for several years, we have a day in January. It's called MetroCare Hospital Day. And that's an opportunity for us to use both of those labs. And we actually, the whole building turns into a mock hospital. And so all of our programs within that building, they participate in. We have a mass casualty event. We've had different events. Last year, it was a bus crash. And this year, it's going to be a tornado devastation, and so we'll have actual patients that come in, they have different scenarios of different injuries, and then all the students will actually have different roles that they have to play in order to respond to the casualties and to the incident that's happening.
And I imagine from time to time there's networking with employers to get a feel for what they're expecting, for what they're needing from the students after they're finished.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think nursing has changed so much, and the simulators are just so important and crucial because that you're able to allow these students to practice in a safe setting where they can practice their critical thinking skills and really put to practice the things that they're learning is just crucial. So it's been a great thing.
Let's talk about the length of training Now I notice that you have tuition. Is there just basically one tuition setup, or are there several?
Well, it's dependent on the program that they're going into as an adult, but for high school students, there's no tuition. It's just free. And also one fantastic thing that has recently started, anybody that's within our district, any high school student in our district can actually come back to one of our adult programs, and if they're accepted, they can be in it tuition free. So up until the age of 21. So,
Which covers a number of years.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this shortage of CNAs and LPNs. I know you talk to people all the time. You talk to employers all the time. How urgent is this?
I think it's very urgent. I think that, we typically think, especially of our elderly population, that needs so much care. But what's really concerning is we have such a large number of individuals with disabilities and developmental disorders. And so, I think it's just crucial. There's a big need for people to be able to work in the home setting, so home health aides, that's just a 2-day certification that you can add on to your nurse aide certificate. So I just think there's a huge need.
And that, are you seeing the folks coming into the program that will help to fill that?
Definitely. And sometimes, even like Katie, we were talking about earlier, that, Katie is coming back around 10 years later, and we see that a lot. We see students that, we saw 5 or 10 years ago, and they're kind of coming back. And the whole point is that when they were 16 or 17 years old, there was something that was planted. There was a seed that was planted, and their interest was in health careers, and they may do lots of different things, and then the fact that they're coming back around is really, it's wonderful to see that. And
how long, Tori, have you worked at Metro Tech?
I have been at Metro Tech for 13 years, so quite a while.
What brought you there?
I was I am a registered nurse, but I worked in the hospital setting, and I really found that I enjoyed just teaching people. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll look for a job in education. And so I found the job for Metro Tech, and I didn't quite know what I was getting myself into with teaching high school students, but I love it. I just absolutely love the opportunity to get to help young people explore and determine, what they want to do next. And so it's been a very rewarding job for me. I never dread going to work. I love it. So.
And it sounds like the infrastructure, the technology there, and I imagine that continues to change and improve as technology changes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there are probably other things on the horizon that are there things you'll be adding, new equipment.
Yeah, we're constantly, each year, we look to see what new equipment that we need, because we know that the students that we're teaching now, they are so technologically advanced, and so we definitely have to keep up with that. So, and we want to make sure that they're trained on the equipment that they would be using in the facilities. And we do have advisory boards, so twice a year we meet with people that work in our industry, and we get feedback from them and ask them, what are the types of equipment that you want our students to be exposed to and to be trained on. So that's how we keep current with what we're using.
That advisory committee is absolutely essential, isn't it?
It is.
You've got to see through their eyes where the needs are.
Right.
Let's talk about another way of looking at things. Technology now, internet, is part of this training available over the internet?
We do have, I know in the high school program, we do use, I always refer to it as an online textbook, but instead of just your traditional hardback textbook, we do a lot of our learning where it's interactive and not just reading. And then, of course, there are other things that we do. We have, at Metro Tech, we have an e-learn system, so we can put all of our courses on e-learn. So we use a lot of that technology.
Yes, I was just wondering if the students always have to be parked behind a desk.
No. And I know with the PN program, you could probably speak more of what they use there. But
yes.
Yeah, and kind of to relate back to everything, we had the mannequins, and now we have the simulators, the simulator mannequins, and I greatly appreciate that. I learn a lot from that. That's more of the technological advanced things that we have gotten. We do also use the e-learn as well, but we mainly utilize like the sim labs more than anything.
Well, describe the eLearn. What is the eLearn?
The eLearn is basically the online program where it will show us, we have videos on there where we can learn whatever module we're going over at the time. We have also our assignments on there, our readings, and so forth that we need to look at to be successful in the program.
And isn't that amazing to have those videos that further impress and educate? This has been delightful. I can't believe we've already gone through our time. But Tori Wallahan, teacher of health career certification, and Katie Croy, student, I thank both of you for being here. And we're going to learn more about this as time goes along.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. You know, our state's ongoing economic growth is tied to students' successful learning experience and bringing those skills into the workplace. That kind of success builds Oklahoma.